Alright, another video. I guess it's going to be just a comment video, and so I'm not sure what the subjects are going to be, but there's some two slits shit in here for sure, so I'm just giving you fair warning. Different ways of interpreting things, but anyway. Purely such a fucking comment troll. I mean, just, there's this more than one comment thing. It's just so annoying. Anyway, we'll do this flapjack batter guy. Okay, I have been thinking about the double slit experiment and draft sign explanation of it. And if the photons' interactions with electrons that cause these patterns, would not the experiment be changed in some way depending on the things like number of free electrons in the material? The free electrons in the material. These are not. The electrons are they only have one charge, so they don't carry charge. They just carry their own disposition, and all they really care about is the force between them and the other electrons. So frankly, you can stream a whole bunch of force past electrons, and they're not going to care as long as the force isn't in the direction of the bonds between the electrons and of the right polarization, which is another key factor. So no matter what the substance, the electrons will associate with each other in their standard electron way. I'm just trying to say an electron is sort of a standard object, and it really doesn't care whether it's on the surface of a tree sloth's anus or on the surface of this pen. It's all the same to the electrons. That would be sort of the theme here. I'm not saying it's a law or a rule. I'm saying it's a general tendency is that electrons have a comfort level and they seek it no matter where they are, and that comfort level usually has the same amount of tension in it for free electrons. This only holds for free electrons, that is the ones barely associated with a proton. With the free electrons in the material. Free as in more or less loosely held by the material. Right. Well, the point is the free ones are by definition deciding their own fate, so to speak. So they're not going to care about anything that's going on in the matter. They're just caring about the fact that there's some proton to be associated with, and they're going to hang around. And they don't care whether the street's upper class or lower class. They're just cruising the streets. I've been looking on eBay for types of silicone wafers. If you make a pair of slits with such a silicone crystal, you could connect it to a voltage supply and vary the amount of charge. Well, see, again, you're associating charge, okay, that is the amount of voltage, with electrons, and that's a mistake. Voltage is how much current, force, you can move through electrons. It's not really what electrons are doing. It's, let's see how to put it. Electrons aren't electricity. They're the conveyors of it. They channel it. They funnel it. They push it. Push is the wrong word. They allow it to flow. Okay. Yes, that's a good one. And electrons in between the surfaces between the slits would be affected. Okay, my point is they're not. Whether it's a lightning bolt or a static electric spark or anything. It just doesn't matter. The electrons are always doing pretty much the same thing. Okay, maybe if you make one side of the slit a silicone and the other an insulating material. Again, it just doesn't matter. There's no such thing as really an insulating material in the sense that there's conductors and non-conductors. Insulators can have tremendous amounts of charge on them. It just means they won't convey the charge to the other side of their form. They won't conduct it. But you can put a ton of charge on, like glass, for example. And it's really hard to get on and off. It'll just sit there because it's not a conductor. Maybe if you make one side, okay, I'm looking for wafers that cost 350 Norwegian kroner or less, because the above sum is a pay toll, and the wafers seem to cost above that. Well, anyways, I don't think they're going to help. I think there are things that might, in terms of figuring out how many electrons you have to go through. So if we said that a material creates electrons, and let's say they bunch close and they get thinner as they go out, like bowling pins or something, one could argue that the thickness of the layers could have something to do with this experiment. But then that gets back to, so could vibrations in the material then. Vibrations will become more and more important because now you'll be killing photons just by the stuff moving as the photons are going through it. So it gets a little bit complicated. But obviously I was thinking of doing this experiment. I'm going to put tape on a slide and layers of tape. And then I'll just remove the layers of tape and see if you get any result change. But again, I don't know if it's going to be really saying anything, because I don't think you can eliminate all the other. It creates too many variables in a sense, so you can't eliminate all the other explanations for why there might be some change in the pattern because of that. But there's lots of things to do that, I just wish this has already been done by people who have time for this shit. But I mean, they should have already done this experiment in so many ways with things that are fixed. Move the light further and closer, all these kind of move, it's just, make the material thicker, thinner. I mean, these are just simple things that all should be documented somewhere for what is supposed to be the most important experiment in physics. All right. So the idiot Piro, he's an idiot. I mean, this is just trolling. Or how about using different particles altogether? So let's just pretend that photons don't do the job adequately, and that somehow we have to make the experiment more complicated. So we have the simplest way to do it in the world, which is you shine light at two slits and you get this wonderfully brilliant pattern. So instead of doing it the simplest way, let's find a complicated way to do it, because then we can confuse what's causing the effect. And that's all this bullshit is. What an asshole. I would suggest single and double slit diffraction of neutrons. So, this is some people who did this in 1988, if I might quote the abstract. So it's a 1988 experiment, okay, with neutrons. Okay, neutrons are another thing that probably doesn't fly straight. Neutrons are, in my opinion, a magnet. They're a dipole, which, in my opinion, would be kind of silly to be throwing at a surface and expecting it not to have any effect. Oh, come on, cat. What do you want? Jesus Christ. I'm in the middle of making a video. Can't you see that? He doesn't see very well. I got some Valentine cards from well-wishers. Yes. Quick Draw McGraw. Garfield. Yes. Because he wasn't doing too well, so well-wishers wished him well. It was very nice. Anyway. Not the kind of thing I would do, but, it's nice that people do nice things. Try. People try. That's all they can do, because there's nothing, you can't succeed. All you can do is try. There's no succeeding. Alright, so the authors report detailed experiments, comparisons, the first principle theoretical calculation of diffraction. So he keeps using this word diffraction. Well, this is quoting somebody else, I guess. I don't know. This isn't quoted, but I imagine it's from a document of some kind. Diffraction of cold neutrons. Cool. I'll go buy some of those. At single and double slit assembles of dimensions of 20 to 100 UUM range. I don't know, so I guess that's pretty small. Their experimental results show all predicted features. Okay, so, again, I'd like to see the details of this. Again, see, they talk about doing this experiment with electrons, and if you actually look at the product that electrons produce, it's quite hazy. Okay, the bars are not very many of them, and they're pretty fuzzy. So again, light produces this beautifully detailed pattern. But no, let's not do that. Let's do it with electrons. Yeah, in a sealed vacuum tube that you have to force to move and that never fly straight. I mean, they don't do it. You have to force them to go in a straight line. Alright, precisely, their double-slit diffraction experiment is the most precise realization hereto for matter waves. Matter waves. No, there's probably no bias built into this at all. So this is just trolling, right? I mean, I do a video basically demonstrating how they can't, for the life of them, ever describe the two-slit experiment accurately. Ever. Ever. They just get it, and they get it insanely wrong. That, let's just forget about Newton's small aperture, Newton's rings. Let's just forget that we know already that a pattern is created by a single slit, and let's just draw a big pile of dump and say, look, that's all it does, it dumps. When we know that's not what it when anyone who has any knowledge in physics that's credible knows, no, you get an interference pattern with a single slit. Almost so close to the double slit pattern that the single slit pattern is actually the outline for the double slit pattern. That's how much these are the same phenomena. And assholes, this asshole will just keep saying, it's diffraction, as if diffraction is something other than. What the hell are you saying diffraction is? Will you explain to me what a diffraction is? As opposed to the crap that's causing the double slit pattern, the interference pattern. What the fuck is a diffraction? Please explain. Either it's interference or it's nothing. But there's no such thing as a diffraction pattern. Show me diffraction. Explain to me how diffraction happens. Because this is just bullshit to pretend there's something called diffraction that's different than what's happening in the two-slit experiment. Anyway. So, single and double slit experiments with neutrons have indeed been done. Okay, right. Under what experimental conditions? And again, I'm supposed to trust them even though they can't accurately describe the simplest experiment in physics. I mean, it's just about as simple as you can get. Two slits, a light source, and a target. They can't accurately describe the results of that fucking experiment and the conditions of that fucking experiment, and yet I'm supposed to trust these bastards. And you want me to go to every fucking experiment you bring up and debunk it. Like I already have with the Allen aspect bullshit, and like I have with these other experiments. So yes, I can do that for the rest of my life, but I'm not going to do it right now because I'm trying to demonstrate that I have a much better theory, and I'm producing actual rational evidence demonstrating how my theory's much better than this bullshit because it actually unifies physics. And it gets rid of all your woo-woo and your Heisenbergs and your fucking nonsensical crap about photons having capacity to read minds. Alright, anyway. So this part he has in a quote. I mean, it doesn't... I guess he's quoting from here to here through the paragraph. Cool. So anyway, so it's just typical troll behavior, right? You make a video, you make an argument, you make a point, and this asshole gleans some crap off of a Wikipedia page and says, no, not on the subject. Doesn't have anything to do with the subject, really. Comment troll. Fuck you. I mean, really, stay on subject or fuck you. I'll keep this for now just so I can look this, whatever, this bullshit up that you couldn't even post a link to. Asshole. Alright, now this will be on magnetism, so this will be more fun maybe. Alright, Hoffaday. At 720 onward, you go on to say, when you cut the magnet, you will automatically create a new starting course. So you are always going to create a new plane of inertia. Again, plane of inertia is Ken's vocabulary. It's whatever you want to, they call it the block or whatever. You know, the midpoint in the magnet. Can you please explain this better, as I didn't understand, or at least wasn't convinced? Again, it's the most, you know, I mean, do you think this diagram is actual atoms? No, it's not. It's just a reference to kind of get you the idea. You understand what domains are. There's domains, and inside the domains are the atoms, and the atoms are doing this, and so it's a collective kind of thing. But that, you know, so it's a general point being made here. And the real point is the whole polarization argument works perfectly to explain attraction and repulsion. And you just keep ignoring all of that stuff, and instead just getting into this minutia. Now, I mean, it's fine, okay, eventually this might be an interesting subject to somebody, But frankly, it's not that interesting to me. I don't think it's a critical thing. Well, how does this line reestablish itself? This is the block. So all magnets have a block. And I guess I could show that. Well, I'll do some experiments on it. Just because now that these assholes force me to waste time on crap, then I'll have to waste some time on the crap. But this is your block wall. So I think that's what it's called by physicists, the block wall. And Ken the kook calls it the plane of inertia. So I'm so used to watching Ken videos on magnetism, and they're long, and he just says the same stuff all over again. So I mean, I'm starting to say things like simplex. I never said simplex, but I'm saying it now. And so he's got my vocabulary broken, and so I'm start to say things like plane of inertia, because he keeps calling it that. So I'm calling it that. So anyway, the point is if I cut the magnet at some point, what the magnet's going to be left with is the pattern of the magnet. So again, I'm trying to make the point that if I line up magnets to connect to each other, they have to stagger. Okay, so you have north to south, north to south. So it's about the stagger. And the point is the plane of inertia is where the stagger ends. So that's where these holes are filled in. So the argument is that I don't know, I can't, I mean, I could, but I really don't want to. I don't want to have to detail what the mechanism is, okay, that balances a magnet. But I'm sure it's in there, and the magnet's going to realize that it's going to have to make a new plane of inertia, because it's going to have a stagger going one way, and the only way the stagger to have the staggered end somewhere, at the other end you have to have the stagger. I got to remember how the plane of inertia is created. All right, magnet, full magnet. So then you end up with a full magnet to the base, and then, oops, I shouldn't have done that in blue. Yeah, that's the wrong place for the plane of inertia. And then the other magnet would go this way, and then the next magnet would go, well, anyway, it's a pattern, so I'll have to work out the pattern. But the point is, it's just going to recreate it. Like a lot of processes in nature, you can sort of understand that it ends up balancing it out, because it likes symmetry. So the point will be, it'll be imbalanced, and it'll seek a balance. And in the process of seeking that balance is essentially creating a fold, or whatever you want to call it. It folds in half, it does whatever it does, and it's going to recreate that. But I can't give you it's like me giving you a physical mechanism of, a DNA molecule copying the other DNA molecule, and exactly what chemistry has to function to do that. On the atomic level is where it's done, and all the magnets have it. And so I was just trying to make the obvious reductionist argument that it's a magnet inside of a magnet inside of a magnet. It's a fractal until you get to the atoms, and then it's not a fractal anymore, and then it's being controlled by the electrons, or square, and so they're going to find some way to establish a balance. But yeah, I'll do some more work on it eventually. But really, you think this is the important thing. The fact that I've given you an actual explanation for the lines described by Maxwell, the force lines. They're not virtual tons anymore. I'm explaining where they're coming from. I'm explaining how this is a polarizing filter that's separating the two polarizations that are fundamental to all electrical process. That's not important. This fucking block wall is important. I'm sorry, you're a cunt. So you're always going on to create a new plane of inertia? Can you please explain this better, as I didn't understand, or at least wasn't convinced? Your drawing seems to indicate if you cut the magnet in the middle, you will in fact nearly make a complete pair of north and south magnets. What does that mean? You'll make a complete pair. Anywhere you cut a matrix of magnets, you're going to create two new magnets. The point is the establishment of the new line of inertia. So I could show you on this magnet. Well, I think I have a piece of this stuff here. I mean, all the little lines of inertia will show up here. I mean, the planes of inertia, the block walls. Well, let me just sit this on top of here. I don't know if you can. You should be able. You can see the lines. You can just see the way it's serrating the paper. You know, creating lines in it. Now, what it would be interesting to measure is whether that middle one gets stronger or not. But see, these magnets aren't lined up properly. So what I have to do is stagger them, and then see what happens to these lines. Because obviously, when they're staggered, you know, when I take, see, I wish I could buy square little magnets. That would make things a little easier. But if I take these magnets and I put two rows next to each other, to get them to line up, they're not going to be head to head. I can't do it with one hand. I don't think I can. I don't think there's much chance that I can. These are really strong little magnets. Fuck it. Alright, so, well, anyway, I just think these, you know, look, okay, do this. This is what you do. Okay, you're just going to forget about the concept. Forget that I've tied gravity to magnetism. Forget that I've done it in a way that also explains why electrons repel each other. That's the same thing basically as what this magnet's doing, in the sense that this is segregating force, but the repulsion is made out of the same thing, which is the blue reflects off the blue and the red reflects off the red. So I've made this huge connection tying all these pieces together, and this is the kind of crap you're going to waste my time with. Could you more precisely explain how the new plane of inertia is created when the magnet has a piece of itself cut off and becomes imbalanced in one direction? So if I cut the top of this off, what I'm arguing is the plane of inertia just flips down to create the new balance. That it's always going to be a multiple. There's always going to be a middle. That's all. Because there has to be a balance, because the only thing that makes this thing function is the fact that, look, from my explanations of protons and electrons and my constant almost conversation about perpendicular, the mechanisms inside of magnets are doing a lot of perpendicular work to create this polarizing filter. So that work wouldn't work, okay, if there's imbalance in the magnet. All right, that's enough. Yeah. You have to go from the the plane of the inertia. The only thing that's important about it is it's the transition. You see where this blue is connected to this red? That's the key thing that now allows these to all have blue on the outside and these to have red on the outside. You have to have a plane of inertia. You have to have, you have to have a block wall, okay, for there to be a new course that goes opposite pattern. So this is where you create the opposite pattern. So what I'm arguing, like I said, no matter where you cut this magnet, the block wall will move to balance the two sides of the magnet. Now, why they would balance, I'm just saying, is going to be one of these conservation rules. Alright, well, anyway. What the fuck does he mean by inertia? Well, again, so you haven't, you know, you don't watch anything. If you watched any of Ken's videos, more than like one of them, you would already know what the plane of inertia is. So obviously you don't watch his magnetism videos. So that's why you don't understand that reference. So, thanks for the useless trolley comment, yes. If you break that model in half, how is it that two new magnets, you have one magnet made mostly of red and one mostly of green, looks blue to me? Well, it's blue, so I don't even know why that's an issue. It's red and blue, but what's it matter? It's obviously red and another color. Everybody can know that, right? It's red and another color. Troll. Fucking troll. What the hell is going on with this mouse? Let's see. What was I going to say? Yeah, what I'm saying is no matter where you break it, there's going to be an imbalance created that is going to be, it's going to be an offense to the conservation rule for the matrix of electrons and protons that create this filter. And so the filter regenerates the block wall in the right location. Anyway, it moves it appropriately through the addition and subtraction of merely one magnet here or there. It just changes the sequence of the magnets. Anyway, no point. Alright. Two horses standing next to each other. The Blackadder illusion. Magnets don't get cut in half, whatever that means. Horses don't have 2 heads, 8 legs, and 2 bodies. That probably just reveals my ethnicity, isn't it? Indian. I don't know. Whatever. What would be the likely outcome of double slit experiment where the slits were different widths? Slits were different widths. You can't make them 10 times wider, but you won't, I don't think you'll get much. Obviously the diffraction is actually, this thing in the middle is doing most of the work. It's the thing that's, got the electrons and the diffraction, blah, 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 blah. So, all you'll do is turn the double slit into probably a single slit pattern. You'll lose the stuff on the ends, maybe. I mean the fact that it goes big and then it has little humps and the little humpy parts will probably fall off, because I don't think they show up when you use the single. When you do it with a needle, you don't get that pattern. You get a single slit kind of pattern. So the single impediment creates the same pattern as the single slit, and so you'll get some kind of bastardization of that. But it's worth doing. Yeah, these are all, these are things, like I said, should all be documented somewhere. This is supposed to be the most critical experiment to proving wave theory, and you just think they would have all this stuff already documented pretty thoroughly, and it's not. They have simulations. Flapjack, I don't know why this isn't a response to him. When I searched eBay USAP silicone, numerous results pop up dirt cheap. Well, I'll say again, it won't solve the problem. I mean, silicone isn't going to change the experiment any. The theory that light is a wave is not based on those modern cartoons. So again, this is, that's not the point of the video, Piro. The point of the video is that it's always emphasized. The 2-slit pattern is emphasized as this is the evidence, this is the proof, this is the one that duplicates water waves. The single slit pattern doesn't duplicate water waves. It's anti-evidence of a wave theory. That's the point of the video, is that they're lying about single slit interference patterns, okay, because they're trying to force it to match water waves when it doesn't. It's opposite evidence. It's evidence that the man is innocent, and they're keeping the evidence that the man is innocent out of the trial, so they can keep convincing people, see, it's a wave, it's a wave, it's a wave, because we're going to keep emphasizing the evidence that supports our conclusion, and we're going to overtly mischaracterize, misrepresent, not honestly describe, not correctly describe the evidence to the contrary. That's the point of the video. That's the point of every single goddamn video on the internet on the subject. I haven't found one fucking video that tells the fucking truth. And that's what you're defending. It's not about cartoons, shithead. It's about the argument being made with the cartoons. The argument is a goddamn misrepresentation of the truth. Just like you misrepresent it. Because light diffracts. So here he goes again. It's because light diffracts. What? I've said it before. Show me what a mechanical diffraction looks like, fuckhead. What the fuck is diffraction in your new world order? There's reflection, there's refraction, there's no fucking such thing as diffraction. You can't get diffraction from pure particles. What the fuck does that even mean? You can't get diffraction from pure particles. Except you're claiming the single slit experiment is something different than the double slit experiment. That's your claim. Yet professors at MIT would argue with you that that's a bullshit claim. They would say diffraction is a bullshit word. It's an interference pattern. There's no fucking such thing as diffraction. To judge if that's correct, however, you have to be using the term diffraction the way it is defined, not your personal definition. I'm not the one defining it, shithead. You're the one lacking a definition. I don't give a fuck about the word diffraction. What I care about is the fact that there's a fucking pattern on the fucking wall with a single fucking slit, and they keep lying about it. That's the thing. Newton's fucking rings. Why don't you show me Newton's rings without Huygens? Go ahead and explain it, fuckhead. You got no explanation. Okay. Thank you, Draft Times, for this. Ken Wheeler is not someone that invented stuff. He's someone who reads older Russian and German books that are often forgotten or had been lost. Well, who cares? I mean, I don't care where he got hyperboloids from. I don't care where he got his spirograph from. The point is, it doesn't explain anything. It's just gibberish. Fuck. Okay, so here's another more comment trolls by Piro. An old TV is an electron gun. Yeah, go ahead and take one apart. Go ahead and unscrew the electron gun and put two slits inside of it. Go ahead. It's only a sealed light bulb, essentially. So exactly how are you going to take apart the sealed light bulb to put two slits inside of it? Oh, that's right, you're not. Troll comment, troll comment, troll comment. I mean, people don't have electron guns, okay, that they can take apart, let me put it that way, and re-vacuum, okay, in their fucking garages. They just don't. It's more like the results of throwing dice are random, but not completely so. They can't come up 13. So he says the only part that makes them not random is that there's a limitation based on what's written on the dice. Duh. The truth is, it's not random at all. There's physics involved. The thrower, the bounce, the surfaces, it's all physics. It's all predictable if you have enough information. There's no woo in this function, and you just keep wanting to make it wooey. And that's all this is. You're just proving you're just a religious kook. You're not looking for the causes, for the effects. You want to declare the causes, and there's some kind of God. The God of mysticalnesses. By function, so again, this is just bullshit. This has nothing to do with saying there's limitations, that the dice can't come up 468 million is so fucking irrelevant to the point being made, okay, which is there's no, to claim something is random, you need something called evidence of random. And what we have evidence of is the fact that we don't have instrumentality to detect if it's random or not. Declaring it based on no evidence is not responsible science. That's what's called irresponsible science. By function, she means a mathematical function. Yeah, I know that. Like a Feynman function, okay? So you need a function you have to know what you have to know the elements of what you're putting into the equation, and that's what the function does. The function is the thing you put the variables into. The two-slit experiment has no such probability function. You don't need a probability. There's no probability function as part of the math. You don't need to probabilitize any of it at all. Okay? And you know that. A formula that takes inputs and generates outputs. Exactly. There's no such thing as that in the mathematics that'll derive the single slit, because Huygens kills that function. So there's no such thing as a probability function. There's a Huygens function. So that's dead. And then in the two-slit experiment, it's all done based on the fact that you just synthesize the entire experiment over the processing of the two ends and allow them to do the interference pattern for you. So you just allow 2 photons to explain any position within the entire range. So there's no function again. That was my point, shithead. There's no fucking probability function involved in doing the mathematics for either the single slit or the double slit. So fuck you once again. Comment troll. Alright. So I think that's about it. It's so fucking annoying. Anyway. So yeah, like I said, there's so many things I want to do and so much time to do it, and there's only so much time to do it and all that shit. Wow, that's funny. The pattern kind of sticks on this paper usually, but you do certain things to it, it goes away. I mean, I was thinking, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you probably can't see it well enough, but it sort of creates patterns, and you're almost saying, well, if I could lock that pattern into the paper, that's almost the 2 slit gaps built right into the paper, but you can't, it's kind of funny, it just completely disappears when you hold it up to light. It's just gone. Yeah, that's really neat. You need the backlight to be able to see it. Strange. Alright, well anyway, I have to play around. I haven't had time to play around with my little piece of, it's just a small piece, but one has to be frugal. Can't be buying too much of this crap. That's really good enough. I mean, it doesn't have very high resolution. I mean, you can sort of see the resolution sucks. It's this kind of sandy kind of grain. Yeah. But I guess I'm going to have to get some ferro fluid because, yeah, you should be able to do something interesting with that. I got some clay, but the clay is kind of useless. Yeah, so far. Yeah, that's a little bit interesting. So these 2 magnets, I think they must be opposite poles, because look at, that's almost a plane of inertia. There's a magnet here and a magnet below it, and they're very different sizes, and it's almost creating a plane of inertia right there. Plane of inertia, I did it too. Just keep doing it. It's just so funny, he's got that stupid crap in my head. Interesting. See, I think this magnet it's really opposite. It's supposed to be turned the other way around, and sometimes you can change the polarity of magnets by shoving them together. So I think it's opposite. I'll have to check to make sure. Interesting. Okay, anyway, I'll do more study on that also. So what might be coming up as the block walls here are really the intersections of 2 magnets, but I'll have to verify that. Anyway, it's amazingly strong. These little flat magnets are just amazingly strong. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was kind of funny because a Ken guy did mention that the government's going to, I guess they're going to sanction mining neodymium here again. And I mean, China produces so much of this stuff, and it's just so funny. Like if the U.S. government was worried about, magnets for their airplanes or something, you can get this stuff sent to you for, $1. You can buy magnets for $1 from China, and have them sent to you for free and all that kind of stuff for $1. I mean, why don't they just buy all of these Chinese surplus? They could probably buy, like 100,000 tons of magnets from China for about $470. Yeah, I mean, they could probably get a real good deal, and they'd have enough of it. They could just store it somewhere, big magnet farm. Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's just so, fucking capitalist cunts. Anyway, just people looking to make a, waste some money. Oh, here's some more Puro comments. Let's see. Flapjacks are cheap bang. The theory of light wave is not based on modern card. Oh, okay. See, unless my mouse had jumped. All right. Anyway, so until next time. But really, Puro, I've emphasized to you so many times. I find it obnoxious for somebody to type more than one comment on a video. And it's just disgusting that you think you're so fucking important that you can watch a video and type comments as you're watching it, not pay any attention to the fact that there's going to be an end to the video and that your comment might be totally irrelevant because you covered in the video. But it's just so fucking obnoxious. And especially when it's just trolly crap. God, you suck. Anyway. Oh, gee. Gravitational wave trioids in subspace. What the fuck is that? My theory predicts that planets form their orbits in gravitational troughs caused by expanding gravitational wave trioids in subspace. You're an idiot. Yeah, I mean, you're dumber than Ken then. Anyway, shit. Whatever. Some theory. Yes, that sounds incredibly interesting. Not. Doesn't sound like you're looking for causes that are simpler than the complexity of our lives. Sounds like you're looking for leprechauns. Something with more personality than we have. Anyway, that's probably enough. I know there was some other stuff. Oh, it's the Hoffa thing, yeah. So he's doing all this stuff on electron spin, and it's just kind of funny because, you know, it's such a misnomer. It's such a not accurate description of what they're trying to measure. They're measuring the directional momentum of electrons, the tendency anyway. And I've talked about that. The electrons end up being, when an electron gains acceleration, it's basically taking a piece of whatever velocity it has in some other direction and moving it in that direction. So essentially it can't go straight because now it's right to left vectors. To go faster straight, it has to eat one of its left or right vectors. And so if it has an imbalance, then eating one on the imbalanced side would work out because now it's balanced. So then it can have two forward. But it can't hold the ones that it gets. So any acceleration electron gets, it loses it very rapidly. Because from every direction, any increase in length in one direction means you're more probable that it'll get hit. So anything that gets longer and sticks out gets knocked off by the force, the balancing forces. And so anyway, so the idea is that electrons do, this is exactly what electrons do. Yeah, they can go straight, they can go up or down, and or left or right. It's just, well, anyway. But the whole way this is set up, like, you know, they have to first, initialize these electrons and play, and it's all, so it's all this qubit crap, and they're getting this convoluted math, and I don't know if this is a subject worth getting into, but I just, the way they, they're using metaphors. I think color works as a metaphor for polarization, so you can illustrate it and make it obvious. But, using spin to describe vectors of momentum, I think that's pretty stupid. But anyway, enough said. Till next time, such.